Well, good morning. Been very lucky this morning to get Joel Shadbolt on the line from New Zealand. G'day, Joel. Thanks for being around.
No worries, man. That's what they say in Australia. G'day, mate.
Yeah,
How's it going?
yeah. Or kia ora, Joel.
Yeah, that's the one. Kia ora, yeah.
Yeah. Listen. Thank you for being around. You're into your last little bit of lockdown over there, I believe.
Yeah, well, tomorrow we kind of go back to a bit of normality, which is exciting. We've been in lockdown for just under 4 weeks, and I think we're on the other end of all of this, which is good as long as everybody, gets their vaccinations and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Because really, New Zealand has been like the sort of the gold standard for the world for most of the pandemic. And you guys actually had a great year. You went out and played to more people with L.A.B. You went out and played to more people than any other band in the world, I believe, at that stage of the pandemic last year.
Yeah, that's right. We were lucky to. I think it was just a timing thing with the virus and also the timing of the band's success with the third album. It all just kind of mashed together, and we managed to get a couple of big shows under the belt, which you could say it was down to the fact there was no international artists touring in New Zealand at the time, and also the fact that we had a number one hit in the country. So it was a really fun time. We managed to pack out a couple of arenas in New Zealand, and then move forward to summer this year. Just gone, we did 17,000 at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland. So that's been our biggest feat thus far.
That's amazing. And now you're coming to Bluesfest next Easter, which is going to be pretty awesome. Although you have been to Australia before, haven't you?
Yeah, L.A.B. first went to Australia in 2016 with New Zealand. We did an extensive tour of 22 shows in like 30 days or something crazy, which was that was our first introduction. And then since then we've been back, I believe twice, and our last time was end of 2018.
Yeah.
Sorry, end of 2019. Got my
Right.
years mixed up. But yeah, that was the last tour we did in Australia. So coming up 2 years nearly.
Yeah, cool. So we're so looking forward to having you back. As a welcome newcomer to Bluesfest, what do you know about us?
Well, it's definitely one of the festivals that's it's been a bucket list of mine personally, but I'm sure I speak for the rest of the boys in the band as well, that Byron Bay Bluesfest is one of the most prestigious festivals in Australia. If the music gets on that lineup, you're doing something right. So we just can't wait to get over, man. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, although Ara may have been here with Catch a Fire back in the day. Now, my memory only goes back so far, and I couldn't remember the name of the guys in the band, but Ara was with Catch a Fire back in the day, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah, he might have played that festival. Actually, I'm not sure, but if Catch played it, then he was probably playing bass for them at the time.
Yeah. So cool. So do you come here with any expectations? Have you managed to have a look at our lineup yet? Are there some bands you say, all right, we're going to hang out and check out these guys or anything?
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm a massive fan of Cold Chisel and in particular Ian Moss as a guitarist and a singer. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully hanging out with them and having a beer with them, to be honest.
Well, we'll do our best.
If you could arrange that, that'd be awesome.
I'll just organise that. This is Bluesfest Tinder.
yeah, for sure.
No.
And obviously Midnight Oil as well. I mean, they're such an incredible band, and would love to see them live. Xavier Rudd's, extremely talented too. The last time I saw him was probably 7 or 8 years ago in New Zealand, so he was on an incredible show.
Yeah. Cool.
To me, he's a very much an innovator of looping. Before looping was a fashionable thing, he was doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned these bands. Who are you listening to right now? Say on your playlist when you get up, or when you kick a switch. Who do you listening to? Who's inspiring you now?
It's all over the place, to be honest. I listen to lots of different stuff, but I guess I do listen to a lot of blues, and that's why playing this festival is going to be so special. I was brought up listening to a lot of blues, so I've been going back and listening to people like Freddie King and B.B. King a lot. Also a Canadian guy called Joey Landreth, I don't know if you've heard of, incredible singer-songwriter and really innovative with the slide guitar playing, so I listened to a lot of him recently, yeah. So, and then, I go for a run and I'll put on Iron Maiden, so it's all over the place.
I can't beat a bit of the Maiden to keep rocking. Yeah, that's for sure.
That's right.
So listen, just briefly to all our Bluesfest people who haven't sort of sampled you yet, and hopefully they're going to get round the stage while you're at Bluesfest, but just sort of run us through a brief history, how you guys got together.
Yeah, we back in 2015, I got approached by Brad Cora, who's our drummer and our producer, songwriter, the leader of the band, and he saw me singing on a New Zealand TV show called The Good Morning Show, and after that he sent me a message saying, "Man, I'm looking for a singer. Love your voice. Would you be interested in joining the band?" And I said yes, because I knew exactly who he was in the band Quarter, who he was attached to in the past, one of my favourite New Zealand bands. So I pounced at the opportunity, and from there it just blossomed into what it is today. We went through a few different members and a few different lineups and just stuck at it, and we're now working on our fifth album. Every year since 2015 we've been down in the studio, relentless touring when we can. So yeah, it's been a hell of a journey, man. It's been incredible.
Yeah, and that's right. You've got 4 albums out, which you don't have any trouble naming your albums, do you? It's L.A.B, L.A.B 2, L.A.B 3, and the last one was L.A.B 4. So presumably the next one is going to be, don't surprise me, it's going to be L.A.B 5.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's right. We're so, the thing is, I think we got the idea of bands like Toto and Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin 4 and Toto 4, they're both epic albums, and yeah. I guess it's volume 1 through to volume 5. It's like the Harry Potter series. I don't know.
Hey, mate. Well, Harry Potter got world domination. Is that where LAB are heading once you can get on the plane and go around the world?
Yeah, exactly. We'll start with Australia and see what happens.
Yeah, I was playing some of your songs and reading the comments on YouTube, and so many comments when they listen to your music are like they're saying that the music sort of, if they know New Zealand, it's evoking that sort of Kiwi countryside, and if they haven't been to New Zealand, it's sort of arousing a desire in them to get on a plane and come to New Zealand. Although you have a global sound, it's very sort of uniquely New Zealand as well. It's a unique global sound.
Yeah, thanks, man. I guess part of that is we're lucky enough to have bands like Catch a Fire and Fat Freddy's Drop, the Black Seeds, New Zealand bands that have really shaped, I would say, shaped the New Zealand roots music sound. That is unique to New Zealand, and that's what the world loves. Fat Freddy's Drop go to Europe, every year, and they sell out 10,000 tickets in Amsterdam. It's a bit of a movement. Like there must be something in the water here. I think it's a combination of what we're influenced by, for sure. Internationally, we're massive Bob Marley influence, and dub music is massive in New Zealand. Obviously, soul, R&B is massive in the Māori community as well. So there's a really massive influence from overseas, but we somehow make it our own.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you, as you are now preparing your fifth album, how does the songwriting process for you guys? Who starts it? Do you just all sort of climb in the studio and plug in and see where it goes, or how do you do your songwriting?
Yeah, pretty much. We pretty much jump in there and see how it goes. It's more of a when we started writing together, it was Brad was the main writer, and he still is. But it's become much more of a collaborative process in the last 2 or 3 years. I think we go down to Wellington, which is the capital, and we go down a week at a time. We're about to shoot down in the morning as soon as we get out of level 3. So we're back into this fifth album. We'll turn up. We've got a bunch of songs already written, but we might write a new song, complete blank canvas. It's kind of hard to say. It's whatever's feeling on the day. But I think the important thing is that we're all actually there at the same time with the same, drive and intention, and the magic comes out somewhere in the next, and within a week of being there, something will happen and something will get captured. So, there's no kind of like planned way of writing, but it's very, very organic, I'd say, as much as a cliche word, but it's, we plug in the instruments and we get the acoustic guitars out and come up with grooves and chord progressions, and that's how the L.A.B thing happens.
Well, Joel, I've got to say that whatever it is, you guys have sort of clicked into that ingredient X, both for performing and songwriting, because the single that you've released in Australia, In the Air, has gone gold this week. And your latest single, Yes I Do, is currently one of the most played tracks on New Zealand radio. And going back, you've had success pretty much from the off. So you've obviously clicked into gear early, organically or otherwise. Is that something that you thought would happen? Is this where you saw yourself like 5 years ago when you when you joined the band?
It's what I wanted, that's for sure. And I think that combined with Brad's drive and passion for music, and the rest of the boys as well, we all wanted it to, as much as there has to be a chemistry, and that's very much a troubleshooting thing where you finding the right group of people, which did take a couple of years before we solidified the lineup. But as soon as I met Brad, we hit it off straight away. So I knew that even walking into it, I knew that it was going to be special, because it was an opportunity that I dropped everything for, and it was worth everything. So I think I knew before it even happened that this is going to be something special, and
and so it is so far, and we're looking forward to seeing that. And also for our Bluesfesters, how would you describe the L.A.B sound? I know it's firmly rooted in Aotea reggae, but how would you describe it? Because it's more than that.
Yeah, I'd say it's roots music, but more on the, not just roots reggae. It's roots blues. It's funk. It's soul. It all comes from that kind of that sound. I mean, music is derived from culture, but there's certain cultures that our music's very deep in, and I would say that one is definitely reggae, and the others being funk, soul, and blues. American soul. And then at the same time, we have the young the inner rock metalhead kind of feels in some of our tracks, where we just want to turn the distortion up to 11 and play like Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. So I don't know, there's a few guilty pleasures in there as well. You gotta have some fun.
Yeah, and I reckon obviously that it's those personalities coming through in the music and the styles that make the L.A.B sound just so unique, and the same but different, if you know what I mean, to other bands in the genre. Is you put your own personality in, as you say. There's a little bit of distortion here, and
Yeah.
a little bit of Maiden there. It's
Yeah.
and it seems to be working, and we look forward to seeing that on the stage at Bluesfest in just a few months' time. And presumably, your guys will be putting together a tour for you that probably not only takes in Australia but other parts of the world as well, and sort of go where the Fat Freddies have been so often before, and follow and maybe even eclipse them. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the plan. We want to get to either Europe or America, and it's looking like it'll be America before Europe, but it's all a timing thing and money and all that kind of stuff. But we've got some really solid ties going on in the States at the moment, so that's the plan.
Awesome. Well, just to sort of finish off with, when you started out, you did a lot of busking. I saw on one of your bios was that you busked, and you also organised some jazz festivals where you were living and growing up. Way back then, and to where you are now, if you could look back now on your young self and say something to your young self, what piece of advice would you have for any young muso starting out now and looking at you and going, I want to be like Joel and L.A.B? What advice would you have?
Yeah, far out. What would I say to that? I'd probably, it's passion that drives everything. So I've always been passionate about music, and that's the driving force behind everything else. Everything else falls into place when you're passionate about something. And you see it in young kids. I still teach when I can, so I go into schools and universities and do workshops with kids. So, and you can just see it. You don't even have to talk to them about it. You can see it. You can hear it to their personality, and you can hear the passion. You can hear the magic, and all. I guess my advice to my younger self is, I wish I'd harnessed it a bit more a little earlier. I've definitely tried everything, and I've fallen on my feet, but I'm glad I fell on my feet in my mid-20s and not when I was 16. I needed to go out and experience the world and try different styles of music, and to find where I am now. It's all experience that's got me here. It's not an overnight success. It's been years and years of playing in lots of different bands and lots of different styles. So, I guess. And then I also would wonder if I had harnessed it a bit earlier and went in a certain direction, and got a bit. I would wonder where I'd be if I'd done that. But yeah, I guess that's my advice is to try everything, and then one day you'll go, right, I'm going to go in this direction, and you'll know when the right time is. You'll feel it.
Cool, Joel. Couldn't have put it better. We expect your album L.A.B. 5 when? Do we have a rough idea of that? Will that be out in time for Bluesfest, do you think?
Definitely. We're hoping to get that out by the end of this year at the latest. So plans to drop the first single at the end of October.
Cool. Well, we look forward to hearing it. We look forward to hearing the singles, the album, and of course we wish you all safe travels, and we'll see you at Bluesfest next Easter. Joel Shadbolt, the vocalist and singer of L.A.B., thank you so much for taking your time this morning.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me.